All right, guys, we are in the studio here. Thanks for tuning in to Painting with Victor Rigoli. I'm starting a large painting. This is a follow-up to the earlier video that I did. I'm starting a large painting. It's a 36 by 48 inch painting canvas that I'm going to be working on. And one of the first things I like to do is sketch out what my painting's going to look like. I have an idea, kind of worked around with different resources to come up with what I want to paint. This is a large sketchbook here. This is probably the largest sketchbook I have. Let's see, the page sizes are looks like about 11 by 14, and so I'm going to be trying to sketch out a little bit here. Some people call it a thumbnail sketch. I don't do real small sketches. I like to do something that's a little bigger so that I can get everything in there that I want. I do use another sketchbook like this one here, just to kind of show you a little bit some of the sketches I've done in the past. Here's a little sketch of a downtown scene. This is a church steeple with a light post here and a building in the background. This is a downtown Macon. So I've got different little sketches in my book here, and you can tell that I don't normally do a little bitty thumbnail sketch. This is probably like probably 3 inches by 3 inches square. I do have a grid on there. This is from a painting that I did called Cherry Blossom Lane or Cherry Tree Farm or something like that. It was inspired by the Fickling Farm cherry trees that are out there. But anyway, here's another one that I did, a little sketch. So I do have this little sketchbook where I put a lot of my sketches in, and one of the things that I do, and I have here, is I have all these little pieces of cardstock that I've cut out, and I use these. They help me to get kind of the dimensions and everything. Like this one here, I marked on here 11 by 14 or 12 by 16. So I could put this down on my sketch pad, trace it out, put the grid down, and I know I'm going to have 12 inches by 16 inches, and so I should be able to transfer this little sketch over to my canvas. Okay, this one is a little bit longer or wider. Same kind of concept there. This is a nice square piece that I use. And these are probably, this one's probably, let's see here without using my glasses. Hopefully you're picking up the sound here. This is over 3 inches, over 3 inches wide. So about 3.5 by 3.5 this way, that kind of thing. One of the things I do also is I have some that's a bit longer that I've used this before as well. And this one as well. This is good for like a 10 by 20, 8 by 16 size. I can put it down. I can trace around it. I've got the grid already on there, so I know where to put my marks on my paper. And then I'll come back with maybe a ruler, straight edge or whatever, and I'll draw out my little grid. But these are pretty good. I like to use these. Very convenient. So I just keep them in my little. Let's keep them here in my little sketch pad. So I've just got like a number 2 lead pencil here just for the initial drawing, sketching out. What I do, and let me see if I can give you an example here of how I use this other sketchbook. Let me just kind of flip through here and see. Like here's one for instance. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this. I drew this out. This is actually 11 by 14 sketch, small to scale. It's of Clam Creek there on Jekyll Island, Georgia. I've sketched it all out, and if you look closely, you can see I've got numbers in different areas of the sketch. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm identifying the areas that I'm going to pretty much work on first. So number one is the sky. So I'll write down over here in the bottom what it is I'm going to be painting. It's a step-by-step guide for me. It's like a recipe. Those of you that are cooks or chefs, you got that recipe. So it's like, okay, preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Maybe you're cooking something that you need to grease the bottom of a cookie sheet or a brownie pan or whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you might be cooking. So these are steps that you got to follow. And then it will show you, well, here's all your ingredients that you need. You're going to need flour and milk and 2 eggs and some salt and pepper or whatever, okay, that you might be baking a cake, all right, for instance. But this is kind of my recipe. So I start with what's the ingredients pretty much. My sky, my upper clouds, lower clouds, I've got listed on here, which is kind of cool. I've got a 4, which is the area beneath the large clouds here, this area here right above the horizon line. 5 are trees on the left, and then I've got number 6, there's trees in the distance, and number 7, there's trees over here on the right side. Number 8 is I've got Spartina that is over here on the left, and then got some Spartina there. And also I have what's called 8A, 8B, 8C, and so I've kind of listed that out as well. And then on my other page over here, I've got number 9, I've got an A, B, and a C. As you can see, there's an A, B, and a C there, and I've got 10 that are kind of water reflections. And so those are kind of what you may call my ingredients, okay? Now, as you follow a recipe, the recipe is going to say, okay, take the butter, add it to the flour, and fold in the butter or whatever. Fold is mix it in, basically. All right. So it tells you what ingredients to combine, and as you do that, there's a certain sequence you want to go through. When to add the milk, when to add, or buttermilk, if you're making biscuits. When do you add certain ingredients, and it takes you all the way through. That recipe does, up to the point of pouring all those combined ingredients into the pan and getting it into your pan. And then it says, okay, you preheated your oven to 350 degrees, so it should be ready to go. And it says, put it in the oven and cook for 25 to 30 minutes or whatever it is, or until golden brown. So you set the timer, and then voila, 25, 30 minutes later, you take the bread, biscuits out, and you got these warm, delicious biscuits to eat, okay? And so this painting process that I follow is kind of like that. It's kind of like following a recipe, right? So I've got this recipe here. I've got my step-by-step guide. I know what I do is when I say sky, I don't have it written down here, but lots of times what I'll do is like I've got like upper clouds, which is 2s up here, okay? There's like 3 little upper clouds, okay? If I come down here to upper clouds, I made a note based off my photo references and everything that it's pink and peachy colors, okay? I got pink and peachy colors. Now, sometimes what I'll do, which is I've got the large cloud, which is this big one here, number 3, okay? What I'll do with this large cloud is I've got in here pinks, okay? Now, I've listed the colors that I'm going to use. Ultramarine blue, quinacridone magenta. I got some other blues in there, some purples, some violets, that kind of thing, in this particular cloud. Now, I haven't got down to the actual, what's the percentage of like yellow ochre do I mix with burnt umber? Okay, I don't have it down to that science, but as you experiment with color mixing, you'll learn that, sometimes it might be 50-50. Okay, it might be 50% burnt umber with 50% yellow ochre, and you mix those together. It might be I take 25% of yellow ochre and I add it to some burnt umber. And so really, if I put burnt umber out on my palette, then I know that a quarter of that size of a dabble of burnt umber paint, I'm going to add to that mixture 25% yellow ochre, or 50% or 75% or whatever. And you can play around with it a little bit. One of the things I highly recommend, and I may have done a video on this in the past, is do a color mixing chart. Okay, these things are excellent. I'm going to step over here just a second and get an example of a color mixing chart that I've done that I refer to. So I'm going to be right back. All right, here's one right here, and I apologize. There's a little gap there, but anyway, this is one that I did for ultramarine blue. So I got ultramarine blue listed here. I took a palette knife, and this is just pure ultramarine blue, okay, at the top. I added cad yellow, and you can see here's what my cad yellow, native, right out of the tube, cad yellow looks like, cad lemon looks like, lemon yellow. And then I had some cad yellow medium, and then I had some Winsor Newton trans yellow. I didn't put those colors there. I probably should have, and I need to go back and add those. But you kind of see what I was doing here. So I took cad yellow, and I mixed it with ultramarine blue, and it was like half and half. You know, it was like however much ultramarine blue I put out there, just a little bit of a dab or two. I added the same amount of cad yellow, and I mixed it together, and this is what I got. Then I started adding a little bit more cad yellow, and a little bit more cad yellow all the way across till I got over here to this. So the more cad yellow I add, this is what the end result looks like with mixing, you know, the pure cad yellow. This is a Winsor Newton Artist brand. Same thing with ultramarine blue. It's not a student grade, it's not a hue, etc. I did the same thing for cad lemon. So I wanted to see, okay, if I mix ultramarine blue and cad lemon together, what kind of green does it make? Same thing with lemon yellow. I had some lemon yellow by Winsor & Newton. I said, okay, well, let me see what it is. You can tell a little bit of difference in the two, okay? All right. The cad lemon is a little warmer than the lemon yellow, but you can see the difference that it makes in the greens. Then I had some cad yellow medium, and I added it in, did the same thing. And I had some Winsor Newton. I had some trans yellow that a friend of mine gave me, a tube of that. And I said, okay, well, let's just see what it looks like. So I did the same thing all the way across. And this is something that you can use and do when you're out plein air painting. I can take this is on like a sheet of a canvas pad. I just took it out, I cut it, I put the lines on there, and just started mixing some stuff up. And once this dries, I did this just a few days ago, but once this is completely dry, you could roll it up, fold it up, whatever, and take it out in the field doing some plein air painting, and you say, hey, I'm seeing a certain color, and I'm not quite sure what two colors I need to mix together to get that particular green. Greens can be one of the hardest colors artists struggle with, getting the right color. You know, do I need to add a little red to it to make it a little more natural color in the green? So you can tell this cad yellow up here is more on the red side than the cad lemon and the lemon yellow. Why? Because you can see out here, as you add more cad yellow, I see more red in here and in these two. It's almost as if I took just a cad lemon and an ultramarine blue, and then I started adding a little red to it. I would be warming it up even more, and I think it would start to look more like this. But this is a great idea, something you should do so that you know how your colors that you work with and mixing those, that it will help you. And so what I do is when I say, okay, well, I've got these colors here that I'm working with on my recipe here, and I know that areas beneath a large cloud, I've got all this down in here, this space. In my note that I wrote, and this was a year ago, January was a year ago, and I said, clouds and above trees. Well, it's got some pinks in it, but I used burnt sienna, some QN, quinacridone magenta, and a little bit of alizarin crimson, and of course I probably added some titanium white in that as well. Number 5 were these trees over here, and you know, it was kind of dark at the bottom. The trees are right where the grass is, and then the light source is coming from the right, so it's coming over here, and then there's the tops of the trees are lighter in color because of the light that's coming in, and it's kind of in the back, so it's coming in this way, and so you're going to get some cast shadows down in here. But this is just something that I do, and I'm going to do the same thing with this particular painting that I'm going to be working on. So I'm gonna sketch out here a little box, okay, and this little measuring thing, it's like 6 inches across, and I'm going to come down probably about 4 inches. We're going to see how this looks. Okay, and I know I'm not getting it exactly square. I'm trying to, but probably not getting exactly square, but it's okay. But yet, I'm already liking the size. And if I look at that, and over here to this side, my left is where my canvas is. And if you've referred to the video prior to this, you can see how big that canvas is. Okay, so I've got it on there, and I've got this sketched out, and it's you know, and I'm just gonna put in here, you know, 36 inches by 40 inches, but it's also 6 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do, and I always do this, is I do a grid. Okay, so half of that is 3. So I got my 3 there. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a line down the middle. I'm going to try to do a light, very light pencil line right down the middle. Okay, now, all right, so this is 3 inches, so I know that half of 3 inches is 1.5 inches. Okay, and then I've got 1.5 inches. And I like to do more than just, you know, I actually have, I do my grids maybe a little bit different from the way some people do their grids. But it just works out better for me this way. I'll do it. Try to get it as close as I can. I'm just going to come down. So I've got like 4 sections there. Now I'm going to come in here, and this one's going to be probably just a little bit easier to do because it's exactly 4 inches. So I know every inch here, I'm going to be putting a line. So I'm just coming over to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing here. So 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and now we're going to come up here and we're just going to draw us a little. Line. Now I'm going to move this little measuring device up here so I can make sure, you know, my line's a little bit straighter, or to the little points that I put on my deal here. Okay, it looks pretty good. And without turning this paper around too terribly much, I'm gonna, all right, let's see, check that out just a little bit. Right there, it's pretty close. Going across, and then I'm just going to come down here like this. I think I can see it a little bit better this way. That's fine, just where it's at. And if it's not exactly, you know, straight or even, it's okay. But you get the point of it. You get the gist of it as to what I'm trying to accomplish here. So now I've got this drawn out, and I've got a canvas. I think it's, and I'll need to probably consider something here. Let's see. I've got a 12 12 by 14. All right, good. I've got a 12 by 14 canvas that's gallery wrapped, and you know, I could actually say, okay, this is actually 12 inches by 14 inches at the top. So all right, now what I do is I will take this and I will actually take a painting or a picture, and I take the picture that I'm working from, or the photo that I'm working on, or what I've kind of composed using several pictures, and I'll start putting it here on my little drawing pad. Okay, and what I'll do for all this space down in here is I will put my recipe. I'll put my step by step by step, and I really want to take my time on this one. And I know that there's certain areas that it will need to dry, and so I'll probably be using something like a Galkyd medium that will help speed the drying process up. There's some liquid that you can use by Winsor Newton that will help with that. I've got some other materials that I use that can help speed up the drying process. And for my first layer, usually kind of my sky in the background and some of the water reflection that I'm going to use, it's going to be, it would need to, I'm thinking it would need to dry. Now I'm just going to throw this down here. This is going to be my photo reference and everything that I'm going to use. And you can see I've got the grid lines already on there. I take this and put it into a photo editing software that I have on my Windows laptop, and I just draw the grids in. I'm thinking about possibly getting like Photoshop or something like that. Now, there are some sites online that you can go to that are free, and you can upload your photo and request it to create a grid for you. Some people use the 3 boxes or 9 box grid. This one here is 16, so we got 4 and 4, so we're 16 boxes here in this particular grid. And I like this because it helps me to get my proportions down a whole lot better. Okay, so one of the things I do too is I will have this particular photo up on my computer screen, and so when I do start sketching things out, I use, and some artists think it's cheating. Some artists say by all means use what works best for you. I'll use this proportional device here to help me to get the proportions right. This comes in handy, especially if you're doing portrait painting and you're working off a photo and the photo is a little bit smaller than what you're actually painting. Then it definitely helps you. And what you have to do is make sure that if this is my photo reference and it's like something like an 8 by 10, but I'm going to something much larger, then you definitely need to make sure that this lines up to the length on your canvas, so that you can make sure that you get things set up proportionally. Technically, what you could do is just whatever this equates to, and so as you adjust it and everything, you can tell how wide this is here. You can change this to where it's not quite as wide. It's just real easy. I've had this for a number of years now, and so if I open this up, as you can see, hey, it's this wide here, this a little bit wider over there. You could basically take it at your portrait painting or the photo of the portrait that you're going to do and have it up on your screen, and you say, okay, I'm going to measure the overall from top to bottom of my face that is on my my photo reference, and this is it right here, and this is what it would equate to of something that I'm going to put on my canvas. Okay, so you can see how that works. But basically what I do is I have that grid on my photo, and I'll come in and look at the photo on the computer screen, and I'll measure it and say, okay, it's this height, and then I want to make sure it's the same height, on the canvas that I'm doing. Because what I'll end up doing is, once I sketch it here and I've got my recipe and everything down, then I'll go to my canvas, which is going to be a color study using this, what did I say, a 12 by 16 canvas. You see it's a gallery wrap, and I'm going to be putting my sketch on there, and then I'm going to be doing my color studies. I'm going to be recording my color mixtures. Now, one of the things I do for that for the color mixing is I created these little sheets. Just put this right here like this. I created these sheets. Now, this one is an extra one. It's not that good. Now, here's one, for instance, that I used, and I didn't complete it, and I probably should have, but it's for the cherry blossom painting that I was working on, okay? And I had some tree trunks, okay? And there were certain colors that I wanted to get, and I wanted to record it because I was thinking, if I did this in the future, if I did this painting 6 months to a year down the road, I want the recreation of that painting to look very close to my original, right? So how did I mix the bark color? Or how did I mix the grass color, or whatever it is? If you have a little sheet like this, then you can refer back to it and say, hey, it's tree trunks. I did this on January the 8th of 26. I took some burnt umber and some Viridian, and I had a touch of titanium white, and this is what the color came out to be. I used a purple color with some Naples yellow. I used some Payne's gray with a cad orange, and you see the different colors that I created. And so it's like, wow, I could hold on to this, and in the future, if I was going to go paint something and I realized, yeah, it seems like I remember that color somewhere before, I could pull this sheet out and say, that's the color I'm looking for. Because if I hold it up to my photo reference, maybe I'm holding up the photo reference and says, wow, it's this color right here. How did I get that? Instead of trying to mix through a whole bunch of paint and waste it, then I can look and say, well, I took a little bit of Payne's gray and then added some cad orange to it. It doesn't mention adding titanium white, but I could, but let's see what it does. I didn't add any yellows to it or anything like that, but it's primarily Payne's gray and cad orange. This is a purple color right out of the tube, and Naples yellow, and this is the mixture that I got, okay? The color that I got once I mix that. These are things that you can make yourself. This is cardstock. I didn't gesso it, so you can see back here on the back, the oils have seeped through, which is fine. I really don't care. This is dry. I can put it in a notebook and hold on to it, but I can get the 5, 10, 15, 20 different color codes on here. I've got room to write down what the mixture is. I've got a date in the title of the painting, what it is I'm painting. Tree trunks up at the top, might be grasses, spartina, whatever it is. It might be the blossoms on the cherry trees, or whatever the case may be. It may be the water or the sky. You can use this for all of that, okay? These are things that you can just file away, and you got it, and it comes out pretty cool, okay? So I'm just going to set this back up over here out of the way, and there we go. So this is what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be sketching this thing out a little bit for you, and so, but anyway, check back and see how the sketch comes along, and then I may just go ahead and sketch it, and then I'll come back and do a video on my recipe or the phases of the painting. So check back later, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.